he was reciting Surah Al-Duha. The first thing he started with ayah. Once he did, he started crying. And he stopped crying, reciting. And I was wondering, whenever you hear the punishment ayat of Allah, you might be scared of Allah, or whenever you hear the Jannah or the description of Jannah, you will be anxious. But now, why is he crying? And I'm thinking about this while he's reciting, and my memory came back the situation of the Prophet ﷺ. How did he live at that time when this ayat was recited, and how he took the burden of this ummah, and how he took so many things that was very hard. Then I found out that the human being, no matter what he go through in the da'wah in Allah, and no matter what he faces in any problems, he is most need to to have the support of Allah and to be with Allah, because we be with Allah, all things will be gone, all the hardship will be gone, will be eased. So when I remembered when Allah talked to His messenger, and when He swore about what He has swear with what He created to our Prophet Muhammad, that Allah did not leave him alone. Imagine here how we live one day without the support of Allah, or being with Allah, or feeling with Allah. And I say, how could anyone live one day without the Book of Allah, without reciting, without living it? Imagine if we don't have the Quran, what kind of life we will have? Imagine you don't hear Allah's ayah. You pass one day without hearing the ayat of Allah. Or you pass a day you don't read Al-Fatiha, or you don't establish the prayers. All of these are connections to Allah. Imagine all of this is not there in our lives. What kind of life is this? How could we live? One time a sister was asking me, and she said, I had problems with her husband and she's crying. And sometimes when the woman cries, it softens the heart. Whomever hears the woman cry, he's going to be uh, heart. He will feel his heart will tilt toward her. So he asked her, "Do you pray in the masjid?" She said yes. She said he told her, "Do you say Allahu Akbar when you serve the Quran? Like the first thing you say when you enter the prayer, to say Allahu Akbar. This is the meeting with Allah. You glorify Him whenever you start that door to connect with Allah, and it is the best worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. When we say Allahu Akbar, imagine that you are standing in front of the Almighty. Allah is bigger than all hardship and all the husband and this life in all. I and so if Allah is the greatest, so everything else is small. If we just understand Allahu Akbar, then all hardship in life are small. If we just really understood what Allahu Akbar stands for, how Allahu Akbar is there to make us face any struggle in life. So how could you say Allahu Akbar in every prayer and know Allah is greater than anything? Because the prayer could really take the burden out of our shoulders. Allah the Almighty made His connection to the servants that they love Him and He loves them back. This is the thing between Allah and His Creator and His creations. Who are we that He loves us and we love Him? He has put us in a higher state to be able to talk to Him, to connect with Him. That's why we are all in need of Allah. We need Him bad. We need to connect with Him. So, if you wanted to open the door of Allah, Allah will not open it except through His laws, through His the way He told us. How many times we, how many mistakes we make with Allah? Look what happened in Syria, Egypt, Iraq, and all Muslim countries. All these hardship and calamities that we see and we see, it's all adds to the bleeding in the heart. All of these calamities, they are widening and they are getting bigger. Sometimes, and I hear from people who are asking, where's Allah in all of this? This is a very heavy statement or saying when you say that. And I say, before you ask, where is Allah? What I want to ask you, where are you from Allah? How close are you to Allah? That's why, if Allah is great in your heart, with that greatness, then you'll be greater with Allah Azza wa Jal. Your status with Allah will be great. This is between us and Allah is controlled by Allah's laws. That's why sometimes we make mistakes with Allah. And sometimes there's a mistake from some of the companions at the day of Uhud. Allah has wrote the losing when the Prophet ﷺ is among them. They have the best of the companions, a generation that will never be repeated. Even with that, the loss happened because the laws of Allah is greater than the servants. Even the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah said that if he would have said false on word, nothing will suffer from Allah. Even Muhammad ﷺ, he's still under the laws of Allah. If you think, how could an army with the Prophet ﷺ get destroyed or be beaten? Because Allah said, our soldiers are the ones who are going to be victorious. So if that part, the first part, that be soldiers of Allah, has changed, then of course they will lose. If there's a mistake with that size, the whole ummah are paying a big price. Look what happened to Hamza alayhi salam and to the Prophet sallam, and the pain and the injuries and the sadness. This is a price. How many murders at that day? How could Allah support a nation that is full of sins and people are waging war against Islam and Muslims and people are plotting every day and night? So how could we wait for the victory of Allah? And we went opposite to every reason for victory, and we stopped every principle of victory from Allah. Before we ask where's Allah to support us, we have to look at Allah's laws, so we will not make a mistake with Allah Azza wa Jal. We have an expression in Egypt, Syria, and red penny will help you in the dark day. The greatest thing you can be used to ease your hardship in 1 second that you faced the struggles of life is what you had with Allah. What have you prepared with Allah? That's why when we look at the Quran and the ayat of the Quran and the stories of the prophets, how Ayyub alayhi salam, when he had the sickness, he asked Allah that he is touched with harm, and he is the most merciful, and Allah covered the problem he had. And also the Nun, who went angry and he thought that we cannot be able to be on him, and then the whale ate him, and we saved him because he was among the praise of Allah. And same thing with Lut. Allah tells us the reason why he eased the hardship. He said they used to rush to goodness, but to they used to rush on goodness, and they used to ask us out of fear and hope. So they have something before the, that will intercede for you in the times of hardship. That's why we need to utilize every minute of ease for the time of hardship. What have we prepared to ourselves to help ourselves for the time of hardship? Also, Yunus, when he called in the darkness, as the scholar said, there are three darkness: the darkness of the night, and the sea, and the whale itself, and he's inside the bottom. I mean, the veil of the hell, and they're all severe darkness. And he screamed in those in their darkness. He said, "La ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu min zalimin." There is no God but you. Praise to you, I am among the transgressors. And it is from the best of seeking Allah's refuge, help. Allah is his hardship, not because he's a prophet or because he's close, but Allah said because from the mercy of Allah, so it will be something we we use it as something to ease our ship. He said if he was not among the praisers of Allah, he would have stayed in the whales until the day of judgment. So Allah said that he was among the praisers of Allah, the one who praise Allah, glorify him. So he was before. Hatib bin Balta'a, may Allah be pleased with him, and what happened to him in Fatih Mecca when he told Quraysh before their journey, and he told them by that they are coming to conquer Mecca or to open it. Then he wanted to, the companions wanted to punish him, but the Prophet ﷺ said, "Look, maybe Allah looked at the people of Badr and He said, I forgive all your sins no matter what you do." Like sometimes you might go through some financial struggles, but you have a big amount in your bank account. If you had that big amount, then you'll be able to use that. But if you are bankrupted, how could you use money? That's why you have to always add your account with Allah. Always keep something with Allah the Almighty. From So you'll be able to face your hardship in the future. So you'll be able to go through the struggle that's coming in the future. Zakaria, peace be upon him, he made a great work when he took care of Maryam, and this is a great bounty. And we always say to one of the scholars who says that there is an ease that comes with the hardship. With each hardship, there is ease. The first one is to inform me that there is ease with the hardship, and the second one is to assure you, to confirm to you that it's going to happen. Allah want to give you the glad tidings that there's no too hardship. And remember, no matter how hard it gets, it will come easy. There's an ease comes in, and like we learn from our scholars, if the matter get too close, then it will open up, it will widen up. So we should never have despair of the mercy of Allah. Abdullah, he said in front of people the ayat, "Oh my servant who committed sins, do not feel despair of Allah's mercy. Allah is the one who forgives the sins of his slaves." And Abdullah said, whomever said that Allah will not forgive someone, we should not always, we should always make people feel good about Allah that there is always a way out. There is a way for an ease. We Zakaria, he took care of Maryam, and he made something to the sake of Allah. And the amazing thing, every time Zakaria entered the mihrab, every time, the thing that means it's always there is a bounty that keeps coming, keep happening. Every time Zakaria entered the room, he found a sustenance. If he is the one who is taking care of her and serving her, it's very hard someone like him to find a woman that she have no one but Allah except him to support her, and he's the one who support her and to give her the food. So he found some food in there because he didn't want no one to use her weaknesses. So he asked her, "Oh, Maryam, why did you get this?" As he is just wondering. When he said, "Where did you get this from?" That he is saying, "How could something that's not in seasonable be there? Even if it is in the same season, this food different from what's in the market. It's different from what people saw." So he said, "Where did you get this?" She said, "It's from Allah." Did Zakaria forget that? No, because there is a difference between theory and practice. We always, we this is a practical belief in Allah. We know that this is from Allah. But if we lived and we saw this in the life of the prophets, we will stop amazingly. We know that Allah is capable of everything. But when you see the power of Allah, the might of Allah, then we are wondering and we're strange. Not because we don't think He is capable, but out of the amazement of because we did not see this in the laws of this life. So it was superior to what we are used to. So she said, "This is from Allah." Maryam said, "This is from Allah." And the believer, subhanallah, always take things to its origin. So she said, "It's from Allah. It is from Allah." Now, if it is from Allah, it should be there any wonder. The knowledge that Al Khadr knew that superseded the knowledge of Musa, because the prophethood is also a major thing. But in this action, Al Khadr was teacher to Musa alayhi salam. He said, "We have taught them a knowledge." And when you say that Allah is the one who brought it, this should give you the ease in any hardship that comes in your life. Allah is the one who gives sustenance to whomever He wish with no accountability. So Zakaria knew it's from Allah, but he did not know that what happened to Maryam, it has something to the belief. So when she said that she's from Allah, Allah gave sustenance to whomever He wants with no accountability. Now, did Zakaria knew this fact? No. But this is the practical part that people forget. So it will. So even he knew, but this is to reminded him about this, and this is what we remember. So Allah, we could use that to ease our hardship, because Allah said after this, at that time, Zakaria he asked Allah, his Lord, now all these years, does it believable that he Did not ask Allah? No, but this is a timing of Allah and success from Allah. So never rush the order of Allah before it's time. And we have to be polite with Allah even in when we're asking something. When you look at the messenger when they ask Allah, we talked about Ayyub alayhi salam, who said that I was touched with the hardship and you are the most merciful. Did he ask Allah to take the illness at? No. He said, you are more merciful, Allah. And some of our brothers Sufi, they say, your knowledge about my condition does not need my request. Even though Allah wants us to always ask Allah. Because if you ask Allah, that's a sign that Allah loves you. So we go back to Yunus alayhi salam, who said, I was touched by her, and you are the most merciful. And the Noon left anger, and he thought that uh, we cannot make it hard on him. And then he said in the darkness, oh Allah, there's no one but you, Subhanak, among the transgressors. He didn't ask Allah to get him out, but he was polite with Allah. And Zakaria, he said, oh Allah, do not leave me alone, and you are the best inheritance. That's why, my brothers and sisters, when he said that's when Zakaria called his Lord, how did he ask him? Someone who is over 80 plus years. In his youth time, he did not have kids. And his wife was also aqir, she had a problem. So from both sides, there's no way of having kids. And that's why that Yahya, his birth was before Isa, because Yahya came from two impossible people to have kids, and Isa came from one that's possible, but the other one is impossible. So it's strange to say that Yahya is more amazing than Isa alayhi salam. But everything is from Allah. If He said be, it will be. So when you go back to Surah Maryam, look, Allah said Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ayn, Sad are alarming letters. It has no meaning, but it has an indication. Because there is no letter in the Book of Allah that has no indication. Even if it has meaning, but it has to have an indication. Allah said, the remembrance of the mercy of Allah, His servant Zakaria. And Allah put him as a slave before his name, Zakaria, which shows the honor is being a servant of Allah. When he said, praise is the one who served, who moved his servant from Al-Masjid al-Haram to Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Who is the slave? Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. How would you know it's Muhammad? Did Allah say his name in the ayah? No. But who is the one who made the Isra? It's Allah. Allah is not mentioned in that ayah. But the incident with all its might, no one can do it except Allah. So there is no need to mention Allah's name in this, because no one can imagine with as believer that this will happen to except with the power of Allah. If we're talking about the servant of Allah, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, with this there is an honor, and this is the highest of honor. No one is higher, more worship than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Until he get that high status, because now it says that Allah don't need to mention him by name because this is an honor. When Allah said, the member of Allah's mercy, his servant Zakaria, his slave Zakaria. So every time you are worshiping Allah higher, then you have more from Allah. That's why he said, it is enough honor that Allah is my Lord, and I'm more proud that I am his servant and slave. That's why, what is the difference between being a servant of Allah or a slave to someone else with Allah? What difference between Allah or someone beside Allah? Because you get from Allah if you're a slave to Allah. But if a slave to someone else will take the goodness out of you. But when you are a slave to Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah will give you your goodness. You will feel the goodness. Allah said, remembering your mercy for your Lord, his servant Zakaria, who called his Lord a very hidden call. Do you feel something amazing here? When someone is calling someone, it should be high voice. How could he call someone and it's very hidden? Why? In this ayah, Allah said it is very soft spoken. Because Zakaria, whose wife who cannot have babies, and he can, and he is saying, "Oh Allah, give me a son." They will say this is very weird. But he asked Allah Azza wa Jal, very shy with Allah. So he asked very privately, whether he made his voice high or low, Allah will hear. Does he want people to hear, or he wants Allah to hear? He wants Allah to hear. So it doesn't make any difference. So when he called his Lord very softly, he said, "Oh my Lord, that the bones are getting weak and the hair are all gray, and I was not with your dua uh, destroyed, and I was fearing those who were behind me. I don't want a kid just to play with and change his diaper. No, I'm too old, but I want someone who's going to inherit me. I want this because I want something higher than to play with a kid. That he will inherit me and inherit from the people, the sons of Yaqub." Someone asked Allah's the good offspring. He'll ask him the righteous people. Someone is always hit his son, and he always make dua against him. He said, "Oh, I ask Allah for a son, not a jinn, because he's very active or hyper." That's why when he said that his bones are destroyed and he was not saddened with Allah's dua. Remember, my brother said, if all despair came from every angle, if we knock the door of the merciful, we will not be saddened. We will not be regretful of Allah's asking Allah. Sometimes we ask Allah Azza wa Jal and we are doubtful about his support to us. Someone is going to make tawaf on Kaaba, and he used to ask Allah that Allah will ease his hardship. And he was my friend. He used to want his wife to come from Iraq, and he is standing on the Kaaba. It was at night. He said, "Oh Allah, if you rush in my wife coming over, if you want, fine. If you don't, it's up to you. If you want, what can I do?" I felt sorry for him. I told him, ask more, be more insistent. Praise to Allah. Next day, he told him that his wife is coming. So you're not gonna be sorry with asking Allah. And then he said that I became too old. This to show that his side to have kids is impossible. It's almost impossible. Why am I blaming myself? Also, my wife, she cannot have kids. That's what Zakaria was saying, that we are in the same condition. So he said that I reach me from the eldest an old age. In Surah Imran he said, and I reach the old age. Sometimes he blamed himself and sometimes on the age. Remember, my brother and sister, that what you do every day is getting to the old age. You are going there. There was something that was written on us. Whoever it's written on him, he will walk it. And whoever going to die in an area, he will not die except in that area. So I have reached the old age. Even if you color your hair, you're gonna get old whether you like it or not. Whether it is us who volunteer or not, it's coming to you. That's why if you see a young person, one time I saw someone that made me amazed. He said, "You are look different." He said, "At the day when the graves are d-" So anyway, going back to the surah, the amazing asking of Zakaria. It's a strange that he's asking for a son, and then Allah gave the glad tidings. He said, "Allah make him satisfied. He's a righteous person." But Allah, when He gives, He gives. Don't be humble in asking. When you raise your hand to Allah, make it big. Ask Allah more and more. And I remember one time an old woman from my relatives, she said, "Oh Allah, I don't want no fardos or nothing. Just a room close to Jannah and some bread and some water and that's it. Just I don't want to go to hellfire." So if you ask Allah Azza wa Jal, the good ask. Ask Him the highest firdos. If you're asking, if Allah gives you, it's not going to make any difference to him. Someone was asking, he's from Iraq, and he's raising his hands. He said, and he's doing this, waving his hands to his face. So why are you doing? He said, "I have difficulty. I want Allah to bring the mercy in wholesale, like a whole bunch. I don't want one. I want a whole bunch of Allah's mercy." But Allah said in the Quran, "Oh, Zakaria, we'll give you glad tidings of a son named Yahya, John, that we have no name before it. Nothing before that happened that has the same name." So he asked Allah, and He is the one who wants it. When Allah gave him, and then he said, "How can I have a child?" But you ask Allah. You are the one who wants. When Allah gave you your asking how. Sometimes Allah gives us the door of goodness, and we're not ready for it. Oh Allah, this is too much for us. Try one by one. But Allah, when He gives you, He knows about you, but we don't know. Give yourself a higher status. If you are with Allah the Almighty, you are Almighty. You are high, you are big in a status. You are with Allah, you are stronger than anything. Without Allah, everybody else is stronger than you. Remember this in your belief. If you are with Allah, you should not be saddened. It was not hard. I mean, when the Prophet ﷺ with Abu Bakr in the cave, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Do not be saddened. Allah is with us." So when you remember Allah is with you, you should not be saddened. You should not be. You should be assured of Allah's victory, of Allah's being with you. Allah, don't worry, I'm with you. I listen, I hear, I see. So don't be saddened of what happened, and don't even fear for the future. Those who said, "Oh, Allah is our Lord," and they ask forgiveness, then the angels will come descend on them. They said, "Do not fear from what's coming, and don't be saddened of what was behind you." So with Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah will protect you from being fearful of what's gonna happen, or be saddened of what has missed you. Praises to Allah Azza wa Jal, the glory is to Allah Azza wa Jal. When we come and ask about Musa alayhi salam, when you look at Pharaoh and his soldiers and all those who were with him, all that power, and they wanted to hit the weak on earth, and we are living it nowadays. Do you think? And Pharaoh, with all his might and his he said, these are minorities who are little, and they are we need them. How could they, as he claimed that he is the Lord, and Allah humiliated him. Praise to Allah, this where he reached to the sea, and the sons of Israel and Pharaoh, and they're behind him, and they have no choice but to surrender when they face each other. Then the companions of Musa, they said, we're going to be destroyed. Almost 400,000 with Musa alayhi salam. They were all, they knew that they're gonna be caught by Pharaoh. A lot of people say, oh, Muslims are done, all our country's gone, and we're just screaming and crying. And I tell them, oh, brother, have trust in Allah. 1.7 billion 1.7 billion are Muslims. They are all asked, and the kids, and everyone say Ameen. Those who raise their hand to ask Allah. We have called for Palestine, and Palestine is going backwards. We asked for Iraq, and they are going backwards. It's gone. Syria, the same thing. As Syrian people will tell you what happened. And we ask people to support the people of Yemen, and look what's going on. So every time we ask dua, it's like we're giving it away. 1.7 billion. How many times we are asking Allah? We have changed nothing, no facts on the ground. Nuh alayhi salam, one person, one dua, one statement. He didn't make too much statement, just one statement. He said, oh Allah, I'm going to be beaten, so support me. He just asked for Allah's support. With seconds, Allah said, we have opened the gates of the heavens with water that was poured, and we have made the wells comes with water. the land and earth became all water. 1.7 billion, and we cannot change nothing. And one person changed the whole earth. Why? Because the dua of Nuh was within the bounties of Allah, the order of Allah, the laws of Allah. The 1.6 billion, there is no, they did not follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or the Allah's laws. Sometimes I get feared of the Sunnah of being even. A lot of people in Minnesota, they did something that is forbidden, and the way they deal, and they went into deep into the forbidden things, and Allah guided them, and they came to repent to Allah. So one time, someone came in. He said, one time when I came to pray, I've been getting with my restaurant or my business. Allah said, "Tibtum, and you will enter paradise. You will not enter Jannah until you are purified. Allah is purifying you. Not everybody who repented that, oh, okay, khalas. No, you have to pay the price. You have to be purified. Allah is the one who's going to purify your soul. Like someone who did not pray and he has some livestock like lamb and so on. They take it to him, pray, pray, pray. And he prayed. He said every time he prayed, two of his lambs, they died. He said, subhanallah, he went 1 month praying. There was nothing left. It was a calamity from Allah. He said, I have only one small goat. One time it ran. It's not stopping. He said, would you stop or shall I kill you with 2 rak'ahs? So sometimes you have to have trust in Allah. We need to stand with Allah Azza wa Jal. We have to be with Allah. Allah said, Zakaria said, give me a sign. He said, your sign that you will not speak to people for 3 nights straight. This is the order for your Lord. He's asking for a sign so he could explain to people. Allah tell him, be quiet and don't say nothing for 3 days. So if Allah ordered his messenger of not talking, so Allah was going to be sufficient for him from talking. That's why I don't want to make it long on you, and I was really humbled with staying with you, and I apologize when I talk in the presence of Sheikh Salah. Inshallah, we'll continue on Thursday.